Had me a very special guest, Rosaire Bushey. Ro, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Good, good, good. I'm so happy we could have you on today. It's always awesome. I got to get Mike on at some point too. It's always awesome to have other podcasters on. No offense to everybody else, but it is just a little bit different, particularly when those podcasters also write books. I think there's a small group of us, so it's growing over time and stuff. I'll be joining that rank soon here in the summer. So I'm really, really excited to get to talk to you about not only podcasting, but your books, your experiences writing, and talking to other authors, creative, and of course we'll talk about some of your editing experiences and services as well. So thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us today.
Well, I appreciate you having me. It's weird, you say, excuse me, that there are more of us now, and it's kind of nice, man, because it gives the author side of us more opportunities to get out and meet people. I mean, with every group or individual who sets up one of these things, they're reaching out to probably another group of authors or readers who the other folks don't have connections with. So it just keeps
Yeah.
making that net a little wider, which is nice.
Yeah. I know. I like Nicholas Fuller's trying to get us all, a bunch of us in his chat for the Nerdy W podcast, doing something next week. I'm like praying I can get there for like my work schedule and stuff. But
Yeah.
like Adrian M. Gibson and MJ Kuhn, we interviewed Andy Peliquin like 2 years ago, like two springs ago. That was
Just a
really
great
fun.
interview. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just so much fun just to get out, and I love doing stuff with everybody. So, and it's always fun with authors and creatives, but podcasters, to me, it's like teaching, right? Like it's great to be with all the other teachers, but when I can talk to like history or technology people, which is what I teach, it just feels a little bit different. So I feel like podcasters in the community, it's just a little bit different. So it feels good to, see what the issues are, maybe what some of the successes are, and, share some of those tips and tricks. And I always love seeing what you guys ask people, like you and Mike, because you guys ask different questions than I do. I never would have thought of that. So it's always fun to get on the live stream and hit the chat. And I've been a little busy this month, so I can't wait to get back onto that schedule. I kept getting the updates for your guys' lives. I was like, I'm so slammed right now. I just can't even like get into a chat. So I can't wait. I just got done with like our vacation week. So next week kind of seems like it's going to be a little bit normalish. So I can't wait to start hopping in your guys' chats and a bunch of other people's. But
I'm kind of amazed at the number of people who show up every time,
I
right?
totally get
And
that.
it's like, wow, some folks do it while they're at work or whatever, and they just kind of have it
Yeah.
on as background noise or whatever. But yeah, it is interesting too. And you brought up Andy Peliquin. He was such a fun interview. We had him on a few weeks ago, and it's weird because you want to talk about people's books, but really the I think for our show at least, the guests are really there, whether they know it or not, to sell themselves more so
Yeah.
than the books, right? It's just a way for people to get to know the writers, and that's why, like you have some questions here for me. We don't do it, and people think we're lying every time Mike and I say this, and we really don't do any research at all. Like if the guest comes on 10 minutes before the show, that's all the research we get. We'll ask them like where are you from and something something. But it's that kind of discovery, um, in real time that makes it fun, sometimes at least I hope.
Well, I do well, I had somebody a while back, and it was like their first like interview and stuff, and they like asked me about the questions, and they were all about the questions that I like said to them. I was like I said to you before we got going, I'm like I just kind of use them as a guide for topics. I feel like if I tried it before, right, on a lot my first live with a friend and Herman Sternagel, and I tried to kind of because I know him so well and his works and his podcasts, and I listened to all of his like seasons and everything, and I thought I'd be okay, and I just like wasn't myself. So I felt like I was having trouble like talking. It's like kind of like a first date or something. I was like I don't know what
Well,
to
right.
say. So
That,
yeah, like so I'm like I just use them as a guide. But I love when people are like there's something that they really want to talk about, or they got something that's going on currently, like whatever it is, whether it's writing, publication issues. I'm having tech issues right now with somebody I was helping with a cover. I'm like, Ingram, gotta get it together. Like, I don't know, like I have no idea what the issue is, but like sometimes people just want to talk about that stuff. I always tell people, you talk about whatever you want to talk about. I'm sure you have this too, right? Nobody cares what us the hosts have to say. They just want to hear what the guests have to say. So
Yeah, and that's it's really kind of because we're such an insular group generally.
Mm. Yeah.
We a lot of us don't get out much, and like you've got a spouse and kids and all that kind of stuff, and it keeps you kind of, you don't have that big friend group that you used to have, and
Yeah,
this
yeah.
kind of gives you that in a kind of way, which is nice. You start looking
Oh
forward
yeah.
to, hey, I get to talk to some folks tonight, as opposed to sitting around and doing nothing. So.
Yeah, well, that's why I love your guys' like chats or like Nicholas Fuller's or whoever's like, or like Chris from Bearded Book Beast. Like, I love going in there. You'll see like like Tim McKay is always in your guys' chat like every time, and I can't wait to get Tim on really soon. We're trying to do something like this summer, like this. But yeah, it's always awesome, to go in and just kind of see like the same group of people. Like Bo Kelly's one. I love going somewhere, even if it's not your guys', he'll pop up somewhere else, and we're like, hey, like it's like you ran into them at the supermarket or
Right.
whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
And
totally
it's
get
funny
that.
too because they always say, when you can't just join a group, you have to be active within it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and those characters, the Tim McKays and the Bo Kellys and the E.L. Montagues and everything,
Thank you.
because they are so active in these different groups, you kind of get to know them, and then you start, you know, giving them a call or texting them or whatever, and talking to them, and it's a great community, and nobody gets pissy with each other, or starts worrying about, oh, your book is doing. Nah, you want person's book to do better.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's like I had Maurice Africh on, and he just got a traditional like book deal for Cello's Gate book one, and then he's like working on book two. So this next year they're like going about transforming the cover and stuff. New cover looks great. I actually really love the old one. I thought it was like one of the better covers I've seen the last couple years, but the new one looks great too. But it was interesting. I saw somebody like tried to they were like asking the question and trying to make it like a controversy. And I don't think it was on Threads. I don't think it went the way they thought, because you had people like me get on there and we're like so happy for him. And it's like, makes everybody else feel really good, that somebody that nice and awesome, was able to be successful. And I think I've had somebody on years ago. Well, MJ Kuhn and I had somebody privately before our interview, and I actually asked her, I was like, do you feel in competition, with other indie authors in particular? And we both were like, thought it was like the weirdest question, but that was like 5 years ago. That was like the thing at the time. And like, it's just so interesting. And I've never found that. I've found nothing but people who are super helpful. Like, I actually was kind of dead with Facebook till I got into like the writing community. And then I just use it, like you said, just to talk to all these people that I don't normally see, and I look forward to getting on, line or whatever at, different points in my day and getting to chat with different authors or, comment in different spaces. So it definitely makes it a lot more fun. You're not just like by yourself in the writing cave or
Right.
in the podcasting booth or whatever.
It can even make something like Twitter, reasonable.
Yeah.
'Cause you just kind of get your algorithm away from all the
Yeah.
trolls out there and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
there's
so
a lot
true.
of nice parts about it. I just don't. There's so much. The bad part for as a doing what we do is that sometimes you'll look. It's like, wow, there's not a lot, not as many people here tonight. And you kind of just open up a tab real quick. It's like, oh, okay, well, this person, Bearded Book Beast is going right now, and somebody else is going right now. And so it's like, okay,
There was one night, like you and Mike, I'm trying to remember who you had. You had somebody who I had like just had on like my podcast, and like the pre-recorded hadn't come out yet, and he was like, "Can you show up?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll show up." But then I had somebody from Chris's, and then Nick did one of the same. So my wife's like, "What are you doing?" And it was just like one of those nights we had a lot to clean and stuff, and I was just like, normally I'm not on my headset this much and stuff, and I just like was listening to all three of the interviews, and then I had a fourth one that I popped into. But it was funny that somebody asked me from each one. So at times, yeah, it's really interesting, and I like going to, like you said, like to different groups. It's kind of like going to different parts of a high school, right, with like different groups. And yeah, you get a lot of cultural diffusion that way. But yeah, I always learn something from everybody's podcast, whether it's your guys's or Chris's, or there's just always so many really good ones, I think. But and I know, Ro, so we'll talk a little bit. We talked about a little bit about podcasts. I feel like we kind of warmed up a little bit, but I am really interested. I've seen your podcast and Mike's quite a bit, but you guys talk about these things. But now we'll talk more about you, specifically as an author here for a little bit. What has your writing journey been like up until this point?
it's weird. I started as a military journalist, right?
Oh,
So
cool.
doing weekly newspapers and things like that. Um, and I never really thought, I saw people write books and it's like, oh man, that's ridiculous, you know. But you still have ideas that you think, oh, this, in the back of your head, this would make kind of a cool book. Um, so after I got out of the service, it was back in like 2015 or something like that. I took like a master's in writing, English creative writing,
Awesome.
and part of it was, you know, for your final paper is you have to produce X amount of words or something toward a finished book, you know, a book length piece of writing. So I said, oh, okay, I dusted off this thing that I'd been thinking about for years and years and years, and did that. And then after the program was done, I said, well, I'll just finish it, you know. And then, of course, the first one, after you get the first one done, it's like, oh, that's not so bad, right? I think it's like probably like running a marathon. I don't know. I've never run one. But, you know, it's that big, you know, obstacle until you do
Yeah.
it. Then you go, oh, yeah, okay. Um, and it also helps, I think, to read some crap books,
Yeah.
right? Just some books that are really bad and go, well, if they can have a book, I can have a book, right? But the beauty of crap books is not everybody thinks they're crap books, right? For every book that you think is crap,
Yeah.
there's a dozen people who absolutely love it, and that's also kind of the beauty of it, you know? You don't have to appeal to everyone because you're not going to. Um, so yeah, that's how I kind of got into it. And you know, book one was meant to be just a book one, but as I was writing it, I said, no, I could do another book off this. And it just turned into like this six piece thing.
Oh wow.
And you know, there you go. It just once you get into it, then you don't want to quit, right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. I do like your marathon metaphor though, because man, my first one definitely felt like that. And then I was like trying to figure out the editing process, and it's a totally different ball game, right? Like, because first you have to write it, but now you have to edit it. So I was like, I'm gonna trunk this for now and pick up and do another one, and that was like stupid. Because then Brandon Sampson talked about this in his lectures too. You know, where he wrote like 10 to 12 books, but then never really edited any of them, and then had to go back and learn that skill. So I should have learned, I think, a little bit sooner. But that's really cool, though. 6 books, that's awesome. Like, from that first idea, that's really cool. I have a lot of
yeah,
people that do, like, trunk novels, like me, like, you know, with the first one. Like, maybe one day it'll see the light of day if I can, you know, fix it. I know I'm going to fix mine, but yeah, that's really cool. Now, can you tell us, like, what book one was called then?
book one was Magic's Genesis, the Gray. So the idea behind it was, you know, having read fantasy growing up, you know, Saberhagen and Tolkien and
Mm.
you know,
Saber.
Not Scott Nix, Garth Nix and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, I love Garth Nix.
Yeah, you're like one of the only people who's heard of him, I think.
Oh,
Keys to the
oh.
Kingdom is fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
I've heard that they're going to make that into a movie.
Yeah, that was like was that announced? It's hard, right? 'Cause I got
Like
dad
a
brain
year
'cause
ago
my
or
kid's
so.
3 now, but that's like a year and a half or a year ago, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I really
I'm
hope they
looking
do
forward to
that
that.
because
Yeah,
I cannot recommend that book highly enough. The whole series is fantastic. So clever. Um, anyway, so all of the magic worlds, fantasy worlds that we kind of grew up with, you go into book one and it's a complete world and magic is baked into it and et cetera, et cetera. So I always kind of wondered, well, who was the first person to use magic and how did they figure it out?
oh, that's cool.
So that's what this series is about, is the genesis of magic in this world, right? It kind of comes in and two people get a hold of it and they have to figure out, you know, what is this thing I can do and why does it hurt so much to do it? And what are its limits, et cetera, et cetera. And over the course of the 6 book series, you know, you see dragons come into it and you see magic kind of start to proliferate within that world and kind of spread out to make it more of the fantasy world that you're used to, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, I think by, you know, you have a couple of things are created. So book one shows you how dragons come about in this world,
Oh,
right?
awesome.
So, and in book three, I so let me backtrack. In book one, I had a throwaway line about a sword, right? It was just like meant to be some kind of backstory to this sword. And
Yeah.
as I wrote it, I thought, oh, that's book two, right?
Mm.
And so that became book two, right?
Oh, cool.
This sword. and what it can do is tear basically the fabric of whatever to get people into the afterlife, right?
Oh, that's
And
cool.
there's a whole bit about what is after. It's got its own name and all that. So they have to go into that. So book three, I kind of used Dante's Inferno as
Oh,
like
nice.
as a outline for that, right? So they go in
That's
and
awesome.
it's not, the seven rings perfectly, but it's kind of aligned with that. If you've read it, you'd
Oh, that's cool.
recognize it. So, but if I could go back and re-edit those books, I mean, I could obviously. I would turn the six-book series into two trilogies because, the
Hmm.
first three books have a full character arc of the bad guy, right? And then the second three-book series is a new bad guy, and it's really a new hero as well,
Hmm.
who kind of it kind of goes between the old hero and the new hero.
Hmm.
Um, so I'll probably do that at some point.
Hmm. Interesting. Can I ask you though, real quick, Ro? Like, why did you decide to keep it like like one like series of six like originally?
Because I didn't know any better.
Oh, that's fair. I have been there.
Because I was putting out like two books a year at the point after that first one came
Oh,
out. I
wow.
was doing two books a year, and it was just kind of happy to be doing it.
Yeah.
Uh, Again, like you say, you learn a lot as you do it, and you kind of go and I listen to a lot about how to market and all that, and I still don't do it. Yeah, this is I think this is maybe the third or fourth show like this that I've ever done.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and it's weird being on this side of it. You know,
Yeah.
I think it's so much easier just to ask questions because you kind of, on this side of it, you feel this, like you have to be clever or at least entertaining or something. On the other
Yeah.
side of it, just don't worry about it.
Yeah. You just wait for the other person to be
Right?
clever or not clever, right?
Like they're going to be really interesting or really boring, and it has no
Yeah.
effect on you at all. So,
I always have that problem when I'm like a guest on like your guys's or someone else's. Like I found your guys's was a lot easier. No offense to anybody. Maybe it's because that was like the fifth or sixth one I have done or something the last couple of years. But yeah, and it was actually after just like doing a panel too. So I think maybe I was a little bit more warmed up, is what my wife said.
yeah.
But yeah, like sometimes like, she goes, I hear you. She goes, you're just getting in your teacher voice, which is wild because I don't lecture anymore. Like I really don't like that style of teaching. But she's like, every once in a while, she'll like hear me in the other room. She's like, you just like really have a thing you want to say about your books, and I'm like, but that's advertising. I'm like, I'm the one that knows it. Nobody else really does. So I do find it harder to be on like your side because you got to get you and your writing experience and and your books out there and people interested in the characters and the story, right? So it is a totally different ball game than me helping you talk about your books. So yeah, it's totally different. Hi, Mike.
It's a weird thing. How do you get the chat here? I
I
don't
don't know
see it.
why. It's like I tried sending it to you. It's been super weird. It's like every
Okay.
other. It's been weird. We got WD Killpack the third. Hello, my friend. We got Mike Mullen in the house. I actually just did a video, two videos. I did one for like both of you guys sent me books, so I actually just did book mails recently. So I'm actually uploading them tonight, and I'll have them out next week. I'll send them to you guys. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not making it
That's
work. It's super weird.
well,
I just thought maybe I didn't click a button or something like
well, hello, folks.
that. Well, that was a good start there, Ro. We'll keep it going for you. So we talked about, you alluded to fantasy genre. Is there anything else you write other than, fantasy or any like other subgenres or anything that, maybe you're
No,
thinking about for the future? Or?
right now, I've only written fantasy, um, but when I get done, I've got two more books to do in the Rangers Deck series, which is a follow-on to that first six-book series, same world, about 10 years
Oh,
later.
cool.
Um, I want to do a cozy mystery. Um,
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm trying to be a little bit more regulated about that. I'm trying to be, I'm just a total pantser, right? I will go into a book knowing if I know how it's going to end, I can get there. And sometimes it takes longer than others, but I want to do this differently. And I think with a mystery, you almost have to, because you have to set up all those, you almost have to do it backwards, right? It's like, okay, who did it? And then let's put the clues in place, so people can either figure it out or not. I think it would be much more difficult to do that strictly pantsing.
Yeah.
So, but that's hopefully. And I do this thing that we started on the Bald Balding channel, where every week we'll do a 30-minute random writing genre thing. So folks can come on and I'll spin a little wheel and it'll give us a genre, and then I'll go to this website and get a random writing prompt, and then just set some music and let people write for 30 minutes. And that's kind of interesting too. It forces you to write something other than strict fantasy,
Yeah.
which is kind of nice. So it's just a way to stretch the writing muscles a little bit.
Mm, that's
But
cool.
yeah, other than that, no, I don't have any. I'm not planning to break into sci-fi or anything like that.
I always just ask because like I have people that like are all there's always something there, but cozy mystery sounds like really really cool.
I'm gonna do
Obviously, like there's some cool fantasy ones that people have done recently that are either there's like two. My friends said for the like cozy fantasy that like just I think just released, and then there's a couple more coming out. So I don't know. I think it's always interesting to see what's ruminating there. I like a lot of different genres. I love putting those subgenre categories, tropes, and storylines and stuff like into fantasy, sci-fi, or urban fantasy. I think it's just fun. Maybe it's because I just love Richard Lee Byers, and he had such a great mix of fantasy and horror. I've seen a couple things he's done after, which has been like horror and sci-fi and stuff. I love the original Alien series and Predator, so maybe that's where my love of mixing genres, comes in, to play there. But yeah, I love mysteries. I love, like the pace. I was really big into Hardy Boys growing up. Nancy Drew. I think if at Boxcar Children, if it was a mystery and it was like that age, I had to have read it.
Yeah.
Anything really that was published at that time. Now I think kids are spoiled. You just go on Amazon, you can like find anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some good ones there. But yeah, I love the mystery genre, particularly cozy mysteries. And it was like I remember like we went up north to Upper Michigan. We were staying at a cabin, and those people had like that's like all they had on their shelf. So if I ran out of paperbacks or something like that I brought with me on vacation, I would actually go that route. And I read some really good ones in a cabin, just like I'm like, ooh, is there somebody outside right now? Like,
Right,
some of
right,
them really, yeah, yeah, they're really good. Or we went somewhere, and I remember my mom was talking. It must have been like a sophomore in high school or something. I thought 6 books was going to be enough, but there was like no internet. We didn't really have cell phones at the time. I think we might have maybe it was before we brought like our video game system hook up to their TV or something. So yeah, I remember I ran out, and it had to been like the first Alex Cross book that I had read, and they just it was like sitting there, and I read a couple others after that. But yeah, really really good genre. Now we'll get back to our questions here a little bit. I know we talked about, that first, series for you. I'm curious, like, why did you decide to go, like, in terms of, like, the Ranger's deck? Like, why did you decide to go with a Ranger next?
So the character Miragon, who is the titular ranger, he's actually loosely based on a D&D character I played back in the
Oh,
80s.
awesome.
So he, I always play that character. Like even in like games like Skyrim or whatever,
Yeah.
give me a bow and you know, a tree
That's
to hide
awesome.
behind, and I'm good. Uh, but why did I went with a ranger because they can go anywhere, right? Generally, they're
Mm,
not. They're just a lot more adaptable to things.
yeah.
This one here has, in this world, the very rare ability to shapeshift.
Oh, cool.
So he can turn into like a very small dragon. Um, and I saw something with tarot cards at some point
Mm,
and said, oh, that would be kind of a neat way to do it, right?
mm,
And I had met Matt Slay, an artist
mm.
from Lynchburg, out at a very small show, like one of those $25 a table. There's freaking 15 vendors in a
Yeah.
unused mall kind of area shows. And we got to talking, and it was Ranger's deck was originally going to be 11 books,
Mm,
11 or 12, and because I had done actually a 3x5 index card for each book. That was as
mm.
far as my plotting ever went. Um,
He's not a
after book
pantser,
two,
guys.
yeah, in book two, I went, yeah, I don't need to do 11 books in this series. I mean, I could, right? I could drag it out, but why? there's no. I said we can do this in 5. We can tell the story that we want to tell. So each cover, hold on, is a different card, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
So he gets these cards. He does have 11 of them,
Hmm.
and all of them are blank except for one. And he has to kind of figure out what that card is supposed to represent or solve some kind of thing, riddle, whether it be a riddle or a mission or whatever. And then that card will just crumple to dust, and a new one will reveal itself. Um, so now that I'm only doing a 5-book series, but I have 11 cards, there, there is a series I've been thinking about in this world, but it will be like several hundred years in the future of this world, where his Miragon's descendants will still have those cards and they'll come back into play.
Oh, that's cool.
And so it'll be, but that I'm not even thinking about writing that right now. That's
Yeah.
that's later.
That's awesome. So I'm just curious, like, so like in terms of, like, because it is hard with indie publishing, right? To think like, oh, I'm gonna do 11 or 12 books, right? Versus like just trying to get, like the first 3 out in particular, right? Just to see if it, people, if it's popular enough, right? If you want to spend, your time writing it. But so like, was that like you were just like wanted to do like 11, like one per card, like essentially, and that would be like kind of like one of the main plots for like each book was like the discovery and then the solving and the use of that card.
Yeah, I mean, it was
That's
also
cool.
help kind of flesh out the world, not
Mm.
flesh, a little bit. So like book 3 was called the Sprite, so it introduced sprites into the world. Book 4 is going to be the Druid, right? It'll be the world's first Druid, because I mean, magic has only been in this world for about 60 years or so at this point. So there's still things kind of happening and coming about. Um, but I kind of sat there and went, I don't want to write 11 books, and nobody wants to read 11 books to get to the point I want to get them to. Because again, I've known since I started how it was going to end.
Mm.
So it's all been kind of leading to that point, and I just don't want to drag that out.
Yeah.
Book sales have absolutely nothing to do with it because, as Mike is so fond of telling me, I don't promote my books, and I don't do it well anyway.
I was
Uh,
proud of you, Ro, for holding it up there. It looked
right,
really good,
that's
by
my
the way.
one time. Mike does that all the time.
Yeah.
Um, he's like, "Oh, Mike is all over that." But
That's awesome.
and he goes to a lot of shows and he's putting in the work. So I mean, good. I totally realize that book sales are directly attributable to whatever work you're doing for it, whether it be going to shows or advertising or being active on social media and all that. But truth be told, like you, just get so many other things tackling your time that it's kind of like something's got to give. And honestly, I don't need to sell books to pay the rent. So, um, maybe later after I retire, then I'll
Yeah.
put more, that will become what I put my time into and get me out of the house and out of my wife's way. But right now, it's all good.
Yeah. That's like me and Mike. We had talked about doing a show near me, like in Central New York, next November. It's like actually like pretty up and coming. It used to be one of those like $25, but went and my buddy and I were like, this is not your typical like like we were really surprised, and they were in like one of the bigger like old Macy's that were like around here. So like the first year we went and it was like pretty good, and they had some like that was when the Pathfinder comics like about 4 years ago, like had start coming out again. So that artist was there. He actually lives around here, and he was like one of the main ones for that series. But it's been like getting bigger and bigger. And I actually have a friend of mine who I met at one of those shows and got a couple of his urban fantasy books. And he told me this past year I saw him in Rochester. Took my son and my friend, and he was like, "Dude, I'm not able to get into the show this year." I'm like, what do you mean? Like, he's like, it's just getting too popular. And it was like, literally, we're talking like this was, I think, the end of July, and this show doesn't even take place till November. So he actually got in last minute, and he just did whatever they told him to do. But I said to Mike, I was like, if we could split a table it would be awesome because like I don't have as much as Mike does, and I've seen like other authors do the same thing there, so they're pretty used to it. But yeah, it's like that's what I tell my students too, and I said to a friend of mine the other day, he might be watching or listening later. I said you can't be upset with the work that you're not, the results that you're not getting from the work you're not doing.
Right, exactly.
And yeah, he was like, "Oh, that's a good point, actually." I'm like, "Well, if you come to my classroom, you hear me say it all the time. Like that's where I am right now." So it probably made me think of it. But yeah, it's interesting, right? Like I do think podcasting does help, though. I just point it out to people. I think it does personally because like there are so many times where I'm just like tired and like I shared our thumbnail last night and stuff. I find if I do it too far out, like it like hurts the algorithm. So when I did it last night and then today, like so many more people shared it, but I felt so good that I had so many people from my podcast group on Facebook share it. And I said to my wife, I was like, if all I can do at the end of the day once I sell books is just like have that core group of people that just helps no matter what, I can feel really good, like despite sales. But like people that just love books and love helping each other, whether you're indie, traditional, doesn't matter what your genre is and stuff. But yeah, it's always really nice to see just how much people are willing to help, whether it's stuff like like we're doing now or like you guys do, or just a simple share. Like I love the book cover reveals lately that people are doing, just like email chains and stuff. It's like I think we need each other, right? Like strength in numbers to beat that algorithm. It's like the old school World of Warcraft where you take all your posse with you to try and slay the beast, so to speak.
It also, I think, helps the professionalism of what we do, right?
Oh, that's true.
When you know 15, 20 other authors and you start seeing the work they do, especially when you say cover reveals, you're a lot less likely to put out something that doesn't rise to that standard, right? It's kind of an effective peer pressure in a way.
Yeah.
And you start reading some of the stuff that other folks are putting out. Again, you start getting a little bit of the imposter syndrome again. It's like, well, is my stuff unique, right? So that's not fun. But I think it does help the product that readers get to see when we work together.
Yep.
Or at least are in each other's kind of lives in this kind of obscure way, even. So it's a win all around. But yeah, to the point of, was it? Sorry, long pause, dead air.
It's all right.
Freaking Mark Twain that said that luck, comes knocking at your door and it's always dressed in work clothes or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
I think so. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
I'll do that work one day, but right now I'm just doing the other stuff.
Well, it's hard because, like, speaking of which, it's because it is work, right? Like, I'm like so tired. I had a friend, and they did an amazing job fixing my cover, right? Like I chose Get Covers, and it's email, right? And I know I'm only 38, but man, do I miss just having a phone number to call people, right? So I'm actually going to do a video showing them what exactly I need, because it's so hard over email, and they're trying to make changes, right? Which look like my email that's what I want, but they're not really, right? Like, and it's just the typography. Everything else looks great. It's like the typography on my back cover, and it's been so frustrating. So I'm like, I have other stuff to do, right? Like I'm finishing my draft, trying to get it out to beta readers and stuff, trying to, do cover reveals and everything else. So, and it's not their fault. It's just the email. It's just stupid.
You use Get Covers?
For this one, I'm not good at Photoshop. I'm trying to learn it over the summer so I can. I had a friend of mine do for my novella covers. I had Tom Edwards of Tom Edwards Designs. Everybody should check him out, by the way. He's amazing. And you might recognize him from a bunch of SPFBO covers from the last 5 years. But he did my series 1 for my urban fantasy, my actual series 1 cover, and it was out of this world. But yeah, for my novella covers, I was like, I just want something. So my friend did them for me, but then he just got really busy, and now I need the back cover. I need a couple things changed and stuff. So I thought I'll try them, and they were absolutely amazing. But it's the same as my Blart. I have everybody talk about that, but it's again, it's through email, right? Like if you and I can meet just for 5 minutes, right? This will clear up anything. So it's just one of those stupid 21st century things that we're doing right now. Yeah. My
It's
artist, he's
funny you
like
said
kind of
you had
done.
trouble.
He's got a real job now, is what he says, doing art. So now he gets paid a lot more than, doing, the whatever he was doing for me, and that's the problem, right? You find a great artist or a great, copy editor or line editor, development editor, and all of a sudden like a bigger company comes along, right? And which I'm really happy for him, but man, did he do amazing work for me that was really reasonable. So yeah, I've had to go somewhere else now, and I'm like trying to find, that's like part of my missing team, as I like to call it. I think it's hard at times to find those people, to replace them, especially when they're really talented. But
Yeah, Get Covers is actually they did this book for me, my latest,
oh, what? I love
and
that cover too.
and it took, I went and I used AI, not for the cover, for the idea, right? And I sent
Oh
it
yeah,
to
yeah.
him. I said, I'm looking for something like this, right? And it didn't look anything like this, right? But it gave them an idea of what I was kind of trying to get to. But it's funny you said the back cover, because when I sent them my back cover, it's like, hey, this is for the back cover, blah, 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 blah. And then written on the back cover was, hey, this is for the back cover. Like you see people write like cakes at Walmart, mistakes kind of things.
Yeah.
And I had to write back again and say, yeah, this isn't it. you know.
Yeah.
So I
Well, it
think
was
they
like,
have that cover editor who is just falling down. But yeah,
yeah,
otherwise,
I don't know. Yeah,
they're
the art
really
itself was amazing. Like yours, like that actually is gonna make me. I'll be honest, bro. Like, and they've been great. Like they've been really responsive and
yep,
really quick.
they
So I
are.
mean, I'm gonna have them fix, and they'll have my. I'm doing like a series, right, or a trilogy like set. So it's like they'll have all my other typography and stuff, And then once you got the first one done, it's easier to do the other ones, right? But yours alone is gonna make me actually go back to them again for a different series because I always love that cover. So I actually didn't know that, but that's why I like to podcast and go on to other people's because I never would have found them or found my art really if I hadn't been interviewing people for those types of services. But yeah, sometimes I think I just want to be able to call somebody and say,
It would
hey,
be
this is just
nice.
what I need.
It would
Yeah,
be it
yeah,
would be
but
a lot easier.
well, they told me, and I want people to know too. If you go to them, they told me like, because I just think of things differently. Because I originally was like going to school like way back in the day, and now I'm out of practice. But to be like an illustrator, so that's where like I'm slowly over the summer. I'm actually have my principal here and one of my old co-teachers. We're actually setting up like a little training for me, like professional training, because they know I want to do my own covers, do covers for some other people. So I'm like going back over relearning Illustrator this spring. I'm doing Photoshop over the summer, and then next fall I'm going back to InDesign and a couple other things. I do a lot of Adobe Express and Canva now, but I'd love to go and next year I'm trying to take some like digital art classes again to like get back into it. But I love covers, but like my wife's like, you should just like send them like you talked about, and I sent them like very specific. I like drew it out, and I
Hmm.
sent them that, and I sent them my original cover, and they did an amazing job. And then there was just a few minor things, but I took it onto Canva, and then I like circled everything, and then I actually made a corresponding list with a number, and man, did that like just help the communication process
Yeah.
because that's all it is, right? Is like a lack of communication. But that's like what was nice about my old artist is like I had him on Instagram, and him and I would just send audio messages back and forth, either there or on Facebook, and it was just like so much better. Like he was able to take things, really quickly that I said, and just kind of go from there. So I definitely just miss working with that one person, that indie artist. So I'm just too busy now to go and like, to go and search, ArtStation or whatever for days at a time like I did to find him before. So yeah, but I enjoy their work and I really like your cover too. I had two other people, like Ben Shankman actually referred me to them. They did his entire first series, My Devil is the Boss, and then his next one, Let's Sleep in God's Lie, looked really, really great. So yeah, they do really good work. But
And they're pretty reasonable
yeah,
as well, which is nice.
super reasonable. Well, I felt bad because I wanted my friend to be able to do it, but I had another friend that did all three for me, and they look great. And people are asking me like, "Do you want to change X, Y, and Z?" I'm like, "No," because we have this like theme. So my first one's like a sunset, which matches the storyline for the character. The next one is at night for the cover, and it's pure darkness, which is how he's feeling. Then the last one is like that sunrise, which is kind of like going with his arc. So, but they did an amazing job, like keeping to like the theme and everything. I was actually really, really impressed by that. But yeah, they did a good job.
What do you?
But I love your cover though, so that's actually really good to know.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna reference that and be like, I want something like this because I want something like that, but I don't know what I want. If that makes sense, like particularly for fantasy, and I need something for my novella series. Yeah, and I got nothing. And I don't think it's gonna be one of those where I want like the character images or anything like that like every time. So
That's what I
something like
wanted to
that.
stay away from. I wanted to stay away from like people
It's
in it.
hard, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just difficult.
Let
It's
people
nicer,
put
right?
their own
Yeah,
imagination
yeah.
on that.
Yep. Yeah. Well, it's like more people I talk to, they keep saying that. So I'm like, that's what I'm thinking for that one. I'm like, oh, it'd be nice to, yeah, because like Paul S. Kemp, um, love his work. The Hammer and the Blade series. It drives me nuts because whoever the press was that he went with, the company, the Egil is like the big barbarian like priest on the cover, and he's bald and he's completely shaven, but in every book he has the bushiest beard. It
Right.
Amazing series, and the art's amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, but it drove me absolutely, and it still drives me nuts after like 8 years. I want more of the series, but like every single cover is like that, and it just there's not even stubble. Like, and they look great, but yeah, it's that character piece that just like absolutely drives me insane. So I just never want to do that to anybody. No offense,
I
Paul.
don't know how the author could let that go. If they purposely wrote him with that, and then to see that cover, it'd be like, no, you've got to fix that. But
Well, it's like a characterization thing too, because it's not just the look. It's like he'll tug on his beard when he gets stressed. It's like a big deal, right? But
right,
like that's like oh, I was talking to a traditionally published author years ago, and but they told me that they're like, yeah, I had no like that was like in their contract, right? And they just had to like the company chose the cover artist because at that time I believe that was like probably got to be 9 years ago, and I think it was like 14, 15 years ago is when the first book came out. And I think the series is kind of like done for the time being. I talked to him privately or whatever. Hopefully he'll get back to it, I think. But yeah, I think it's like one of those situations, right, where you're with a particular company and it's like not in the contract to have that. But that's where I think being indie is kind of nice, where you and I can just like yeah, you got to cover the cost and everything, but you can also decide like this is what my cover is going to look like, and decide where to spend your time and stuff. But yeah, I think it's always really interesting.
at the end of the day, though, we always say that we're indie because we get to keep control and blah 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 blah. But I think most of us, if we were approached by Tor or something,
Oh yeah.
would absolutely sell our souls for a contract.
Well, I have like certain stuff. Like there's some stuff like my first fantasy world. Like I wrote it as like Russell Carroll and I had talked about this. Wrote as like he wrote like Eberron like game fiction, right? And I was doing Forgotten Realms years ago. So then I switched it completely to my own stuff. But that's like 20 years in the making, and I would never let anybody like you would have to offer me so much for me to give up creative rights. But all my other stuff, I got a ton of other stuff. Like if you want it, I'm like, no offense to anybody, I'd be out of this classroom in a heartbeat. I told my wife like I'm going on her insurance because she's a teacher too, and like I would just spend my days like taking my son to school, writing, picking him up before nap time, and we'd hang out the rest of the day. Like that's definitely my dream. But there's certain stuff I'm like worried that kind of like the cover thing with Paul, right? There's like one world I'm worried about, where I'm worried like I wouldn't have like a good say, and that happened to me actually. When I was 17, I almost sold my first screenplay, and I was like super close. Stupid, past me, should have just done it for like the $4,800 or $5,000, whatever it was. But my teacher at the time, my drama teacher, was like, "Yeah, they're gonna change everything." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Their notes are like this big," and I was like, "All right, well, I'll change this." But like, it was like totally different. And I decided not to do it because I was 17 and I knew everything. So
Right,
now
yeah.
I'm like, "You're an idiot, dude! Like, you should have done it." Just to get the experience and the credit, because then I could have done something else later. But yeah, like, but that's still, I think, like, with those characters in particular, like, it kind of made me, there's the certain ones, yeah, I just protect, if that makes sense, and I want to
Yeah.
make sure they are written in a certain way. But yeah, other than that, though, anybody can come and take anything from me and Roe,
Please
write
do.
the check.
Make the check
Yeah,
out
so
too.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
all good.
that's fair. Now, Ro, I definitely want to make sure we have time, in terms of, talking about, your editing services, things like that, and your
Yeah.
experiences. So, as someone who edits other authors' works as well as writes your own, what common strengths and pitfalls do you see emerging in different indie fantasy writing today?
It's weird. Because I don't do a whole lot of editing, not as much as I'd like to do. Uh, but it's I don't I look at the stuff and I kind of go, oh, hey, that's nice, right? It's Well, you're finding the mistakes in their writing, right? And I think it's very
Yeah.
important to understand they have a writing style, and it's not your job to change their writing style, right? So I tell everybody who I work with, you don't have to accept anything that I do, right? So you don't. Ultimately, it's up to you because your name is on the cover, not mine. So I asked to do it in Word, and I will put a lot of comments off to the side, right? I'll highlight something and leave a comment. Sometimes the comments are just like, if you do anything to this character, I will hunt you down, right? And sometimes it's like, yo, please kill this person. This person's so annoying. Because you kind of get into it as a reader as well.
Yeah.
Um, but sometimes you do see mistakes that happen over and over and over again, right? And so I'll leave little notes like, okay, you need to go through and just search for this problem because this is like the sixth time it's happened in three chapters, whatever it is. Or, you do this or this, pick one. It doesn't matter which one, just be consistent with it. If you're consistent all the way through, even if you're wrong, as long as you're wrong consistently, it looks like a choice, right? That's just the way you've decided to do it, and that's fine. Uh, but you do kind of see how there are things that you read sometimes and you go, I could do this for 100 years and I would never have thought to do that. And it's freaking brilliant, right? It works so well. And so I think you get a lot out of it as a writer as well, going through looking for mistakes purposefully and having to not just read it as a story, but read it for the writing.
Yeah.
You do actually get a lot out of that. Now, my editing probably wouldn't be for everyone. If someone is of a delicate disposition, they probably wouldn't want me to be their editor. Because if I think something is just dog shit stupid, I will say that. Um, but I'm not trying to be mean about it. What I'm ultimately trying to do is, like you, teach them, you know, so that the next time I don't have to do as much work. It's a self-preservation thing, really. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's me trying to make future me less work, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but also, hopefully, if they read those notes and everything, they will start looking for it. And that's the way coming through as a writer, as I did in the Air Force. There were no holds barred on the. We used to have when I was stationed in upstate New York in the 90s, we would get like all 13 editors from our command together from throughout the country, and we would rip apart one person's paper every week, right? 'Cause we would all get them mailed to us. So we'd say, okay, Bushey's this week, and everybody would just like red pen, and it was brutal, absolutely brutal, right? But it was all done in fun because we all knew each other, etc. Um, so that's kind of how I look at it. It's a very kind of, but I always tell people, send me a chapter, I'll do a chapter, and if you like it, great, we can work together, and if not, okay, that's fine too.
That's fair. Mike said, "Oh no, he's going to talk about me." And then he said he did tell me that for one of my characters, every new page he was hoping a knife would find his neck.
Yeah, yeah, well, there's some characters like that.
But I
And
totally
Mike,
get what you're saying though, like because it's like I've had people where I've so like one of my friends, like I'm not a veteran, right? I'm not an ex-Marine. My friend is, so he was like going through, and I was like just talking about things, and he was like, "Well, I'm pretty blunt," and I'm like, "That's fine," because I'm very busy. I don't have time to like whatever, right? I just want boom, boom, boom. If I don't want to make a change, I'm not going to make a change, right? But like he had so many great things just from our conversation that I went through by manuscript. So I can't wait. I said, I was like, I will give you all the free swag and stuff. Like, if you can just, like read through to make sure I, get these things right. But yeah, it was funny because he was probably then my alpha readers at H.L. Tinsley. Awesome job. Logan D. Irons, friend of mine, did this. They both volunteered. I was like, yes, please. But they asked me, they're like, can I just be blunt? I'm like, please. And they both had like the same thing to say, and it's so needed. Like those things needed to be said. So when I gave it to my developmental editor at the time, Sarah Torm was helping me out. I was in a bind. My first round did not go well with a different person, so she helped me, gave me like a freaking training book on how to edit, and I'm still going through. But like, man, is this thing going to be so much better, than what I thought it was going to be. And I encourage people out there, because this is a journeyman's podcast, like I like to say. It's for people who are about to publish their first book. Maybe you have 2 or 3 out there. I think no matter how many you have, maybe it's the martial artist in me, but like the first class I went to, like I was learning from a 10-year-old black belt, and the kid was amazing, went to junior Olympics and stuff, like grew into one of the best martial artists I've ever seen. So maybe it comes from that, right? But I just assume everybody knows more than me, and I also just assume that I should listen. Even if I'm not going to always take the advice, I should still listen and keep an open mind, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're willing to help me, I think that's personally a lot of the editors I've, have talked to, or people I know who, have had them edit their books. There's not many people that you're going to go out there and find who are trying to hurt you, right? Like, sure, you're getting paid, whatever, for your service, but they really want to help, right? And they're not going to keep going, wanting to help you regardless of the money if they don't want to help you or read the book, or help you to make the characters or the story better. So I definitely think sometimes people forget about that, right? As like you said, it's like teaching. So I think sometimes people forget that, they're trying to help to the best of their ability.
Like public speaking, right? Everybody's always worried about public speaking, but I mean, everybody there, nobody wants to be in the uncomfortable place of watching you do badly, right? Because that's painful. It's just,
it really is. Yeah.
Squirmy when someone's horrible in front of. So everybody wants you to succeed, and
Yep.
especially if you get 2 or 3 people telling you the same thing, then you pretty much know it's like, okay, if multiple people are saying this, then I probably need to listen.
Yeah, well, I had somebody with a cover recently, and the story sounded really awesome, and I was just like, I will literally do a free one for you on Canva or Adobe Express if you just let me, and I didn't hear back from the person. I think actually they were a bot, actually, but like, if there's anybody out there and you're like, oh, I need something really cheap or really quick or whatever, like, please, it's the design teacher in me. It just crushes my soul if I see something that's not ready for market, right? And like we said earlier, right, that actually, whether we want to admit it or not, right, like your amazing cover that you just showed, actually both of them, actually helps raise everybody else up in the genre, whether we want to admit it or not, and it's one of those things, like I would rather just help somebody out for free than have them like fall flat on their face or put something out that won't help them sell their story. And it's like, I was like, it really crushed me. So my friend was like, you should just message them and just offer. And I did. And then we looked, I think it was a bot or whatever, like taking someone's work or trying to whatever. But you never know, right? If there's anybody out there, like, let me know. I'd rather help you. Like, you can give me $1 or whatever. I don't care. I just want it to look good at the end of the day, to be quite honest. So
I put something on Twitter before, I think, saying, hey, if you've got a book under 40,000 words, send it to me. I'll edit it for free, right? Just as a way to try to get future business, really. And nothing. It's like, okay, well, either everybody's got editors they're happy with, or and I don't want to poach anybody. That's not doing that. I don't know how many book events you go to, but that is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen at a book event. Mike and I were at one once, and this lady was going around and kind of poaching people from other tables, which is
interesting.
That is the naffest, I guess, to use a British term, thing ever. And if it was any other place, they'd probably get beat down, right, for doing that.
Yeah,
it's a thing you don't do.
I would never go with that person. Like if that's what was going on, I'd be like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
So
that's like my dad used to be a car salesman, and he just hated the sleazy ones. Like, just couldn't stand it, right? And like, ended up getting in trouble at one point at the first like dealership worked at, because like they were like somebody new took over, right? Like the son took over, or whatever. And he was like, they're like, well, why aren't you doing this? And my dad's like, yeah, I'm like basically wanting to like screw people over. And he was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm sure there were other things, but he just like refused. He just flat out refused, right? He's like, I'm not going to be that type of car salesman. And I met, martial artists. I met a lot of those types of martial artists, no matter, what the martial art has been over the years, where we call them the McDonald's or like the McDojos, and it's like they're just trying to make a profit. They don't care about, their client or anything. So, yeah, that actually reminds me a lot of that. So if I saw someone doing that, I would like stay away from that person. Like, that's just a shark that wants your money and doesn't care about anything or anybody else, in my opinion. But
you don't see it that often. That's the
yeah,
only time we've actually ever seen it. But
that's
it
wild.
was just it was on, right? Yeah, it was
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was a strange kind of thing. So,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
but yeah, no,
Do you mind if
editing's
I?
fun.
Yeah.
It's not too bad. It takes some time, right? But
Mm.
it keeps you focused. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, do you mind, Ro? So I have people in the description, so I'll make sure I put your website. But so can they find your editing services through your main website or your link tree
actually,
or
no, they just email me.
email? Okay, I just want to make sure we said
Yeah,
that. Okay.
I have a link tree, which is just
I put it in the first time. If anybody needs it, like don't worry, I'll make sure I re-edit it the description. This made me redo this on Riverside, but I had it originally. If it's not in there, I'll make sure that I go back and edit it. We'll make sure the link tree's in there.
yeah.
Or did you want your email? Is your email in the link tree? I forget. I
I
thought it was
think
at
it
the bottom.
probably is, but it's author@rosairebushy.com.
Perfect. That way, in case anybody, wants to contact Ro for services, we love to connect people. It was so awesome. I had some voice actors on Aaron Moon, Amy Hutchins. So I was actually able to connect them with some people a couple of years ago and help make some products happen. It's like why I did the channel. So it always feels good that way. So I want to make sure, we talked about that. What would you say though, Ro, like in terms of what like your number one piece of advice is before someone kind of hand something off to you or another editor for the first time?
For editing.
Yeah.
Um, Writing advice or
Could be anything. I'm just curious, like, what you're like, maybe what you've seen the most where you're like, oh, I wish someone had done this first.
I think well, probably careful with word usage.
Mm.
Everybody has like a word or something that they use too
There we
much.
go. Yeah, I do.
And yeah, I went through one of my books and I realized that I was using this word a lot and I did a search for it and I found like 91 instances or something where I
I
used
had like
that word. It's like
62.
that's just
Yeah.
so yeah, when I write now, I always have a tab open for thesaurus.com.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
Other people will use like Chat GPT or something. It's like, give me another word for this, in this context. And that's a perfectly legitimate use of AI. Um, so yeah, just because there's only so many ways you would think that someone can wink, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
But people do things quickly. Well, there's got to be another word for quickly. But
I had like set up certain like structures like that, right? Uh, like now I don't do it because I like I had three people pointed out, so I restructure how I write sentences differently, particularly thinking about characters, where they're from, what their experience is, like their personalities. But at the time, yeah, like every single one of this is my first fan. That's why it's probably a trunk novel for now, right? My first fantasy book was like my friend goes every single structured quote is the same. Like, he's like, they said this or talked about or whatever. Yeah, there wasn't enough, variation
well,
at
and that's
all,
the other
which I
thing,
totally agree
right?
with.
It is dialogue tags. You
Yeah,
don't
dialect, yeah.
you don't always need them, right? If there's only two people talking, you can go just like quote
Back
after
and forth.
quote,
Yeah.
because it's back and forth, right? It's a new paragraph, it's a different person talking. You can do that, I mean, not for pages on end, but you can be a lot more sparse with your dialogue tags when you're doing things like that. So,
Yeah. Well, I'm like doing first person POV. um, and like past tense and stuff for my novella. But I have what my first intro has to be like present tense, and it's like it was so hard to do that because like I wrote everything else multiple times, and then people were telling me like, oh, maybe you should cut this, and I go, no, I don't. I'm not cutting it. I need to actually tweak it, and I did to kind of set off like the novella and stuff. But it was so hard, yeah, to switch. And at one point, I switched like just like what I was doing. I was doing like third person POV at first, and then later on, I was like, "This is stupid. I should have just done first person," because that's like what Dresden Files. That's what most urban like 82%. And I've looked this up. 82% of like urban fantasies are from that POV for a reason and
Really,
intent.
first
So
person
I,
present.
yeah, so I like switched it around. I was like, this is so stupid. Like I should have
That-
just, but I wanted to just get the book done, right? Like the first draft. But that, speaking of learning from mistakes, I'll never do that again. The second one, I already started most of it. I will never make that dumb mistake again. But yeah, it was
Mike
there. I
writes in
feel
first
bad.
person present, and when I did his first book, it's like, really, are you going to do this the whole way through? And and that was the learning point for me, right? It's like
Yeah,
that's his writing style. Don't change
yeah,
his
yeah,
writing style. It works for him, and
yep,
run with it. And after a couple chapters, you kind of get used to it, and you're like, okay,
yeah,
it's not, the first time you see it and you're not used to it, it's kind of grating, right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
after a while, it's like, all right, that's fine. It's like anything else.
What's like reading too? Like I love. I started it. I got to get back to it. I just got really busy at the end of the year, in December. But like the gutter prayer, right? It's like you got the first chapter, which is great, and then it switches to. I don't think this is a spoiler, but not for a while. It switches to the building's point of view that they're in, and it really took me. It like took me a minute, and it's written in a different like tense and style, and not that I don't like it, but it like really threw me for a loop for a minute there. So then once I got going, I was like, oh, like but I feel like I feel like that would be difficult at times, because yeah, there are certain people. There's a reason I go back to Jim Butcher as palate cleansers or Will White's with like Cradle because I just like really like the writing style or the characters. But it's like kind of feels like home and safe, so to speak. But yeah, I feel like I would have trouble editing because sometimes as a reader, I have trouble kind of going back and forth between different styles, and it does take me. That's why I always give myself that like 50-page rule. If it's a bigger book, I'll do like 75, just to get used to the author style. But I could totally see where that would like throw people off when you're editing, especially if you have people that have very different writing styles, which a lot of editors do. So yeah, that would be an interesting experience from your point of view. Mike's like, yeah, writing epic fantasy in first person creates challenges, especially when your MC is an introvert. That's fair.
Right? Yeah. And they
That's
can't
fair.
die, right? Although I think
Yeah.
Mike has actually done that. But
Yeah. Nobody's safe around Mike, right? That's what I heard. If your characters, it's like George R. R. Martin times 10. That's what I think he said in one of your guys' podcasts at some point. I laughed so hard. My wife's like, "What happened?" I was like, "You wouldn't understand." She doesn't read fantasy. I was like, "You wouldn't understand," but I was like, "That was really funny." Now, in terms of podcasting, we're winding down on time here, but in terms of podcasting, what would be like one memorable interview or conversation that you guys have had that taught you something maybe unexpected in terms of writing, publishing, or just creativity?
I can't like link one. We've had so many.
Me neither.
We are coming up on 300 episodes, right?
Oh, congrats on
Now
those.
a few of those episodes are my random writing episodes, and a few are Mike's creature creations episodes. But
Oh, I love those.
300 bald and balding podcasts, and I think there's only been maybe two, definitely one, where Mike and I have been afterwards. Yeah, never again. Uh,
That was mine, guys. Sorry.
it was not. Um, it's nobody you've ever heard of anywhere else other than there, but it doesn't matter. So yeah, a lot of times I mean, the this right here came about because of an interview we had with Mike Roberti,
Mm.
and he was talking about his book and how like tattoos on the person were the magic or something, and I just
Oh
had
yeah,
a
yeah.
thought about written magic, right? Which is what this is all about. This world of Enderun, well, that's not the world, that's the country, but um, magic has to be written down. But the sigil is said to be able to let the magic user cast magic just with a thought, right? So you don't actually have to write it. But that all came from Mike Roberti talking about his tattoo guy or whatever. And I just kind of scribbled a note down real quick and then got really into fountain pens. You know, so,
If no one
yeah,
else has ever done that, I've done that.
we've,
I have a kid
we've,
now, but it's,
we've got, we get a lot from, we get a lot more out of it, I think, than we put into it, certainly. Just from the friendships that and the people that we've met. And we do learn a lot, I think, as well.
yeah, I think that's fair. When I asked this question, because I've been thinking about it, because someone asked me that a while back, and I was like, I have, I've only had one where I was like, never again, and in 5 years, but everybody else has just been like, absolutely, I've learned something very valuable. I'm totally blanking on her last name. Season one, if you go back and check, I had a romance and dark fantasy author, Susanna, on. She approached me. I had just started, and I was like, yeah, I'm just going to interview whoever, because I don't want to be restrictive. Because if I only go with people I know, right, or from your guys' podcast or whoever's, like, I'm going to miss something good. And man, her and I had the greatest talk about world building, and it was just like I got done with that, and then I went back and I just started just to crank stuff out for like 3 hours. I think our interview was like at 9 to 10 p.m. It was like before my son was born. Now that's impossible. But yeah, and I wrote for like, I think it was like 1:30 in the morning, and I got some of my best stuff. I think in the last couple of years, especially like out of that led to like other projects and stuff that I'm like wrapping up
Nice.
between this year and next year. But if without that interview, right, like I probably wouldn't have my novella that I have right now. I wouldn't have the world. I actually just finalized a couple of character cameos for my novella, and these two characters are kind of like, I think I talked about in your guys' podcast, like these Men in Black type characters and organizations. I tweaked it a little bit since then. But I look back and I'm like, it was that one conversation that I had with this one author that just randomly messaged me on Facebook. Yeah, and people ask me, like, what do I get out of podcasting? I mean, like on top of if I had not used Get Covers, if like just knowing that yours is that awesome, I would use them, right? Or that you do editing services. So there's just all sorts of things I think that we can learn from each other. Maybe it's the history teacher in me and the cultural diffusion my students are tired of hearing about, but it is true, right? Like, because if we don't, I think, talk to, well, with one another, like, I would never know, what successes or, setbacks or anything that you've had or anybody else has had. So yeah, people always ask me, what do you get out of it? And I'm like you said, friends. I got a lot of friends. My wife, I'm always like, I'm gonna go interview someone now. I got to go to work. She's like, you're just talking to one of your friends. Like, stop acting like you're going to the mine or something.
Right.
Like, and she knows I
Yeah,
have a good
digging a
time
ditch.
doing it. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've done that. God, does it suck? I would much rather
Yeah.
podcast all day long. Like, yeah. Now, in terms of managing, writing, editing, co-hosting, your guys' own show, how do you balance these different creative priorities? What advice might
You
you give
don't.
some other people?
Um,
God, do I
yeah,
feel that right now, Ro?
and again, I used to put out two, 100,000 word books a year. Now I'm putting out one 70,000 word book every year and a half, kind of thing.
Which is like super fast, though. I don't know if you've had this, but I had somebody come on last year for season 4, and they were like, I'm like, well, my last question will ask you too, right? Like, what do you got going on? Current projects, news and updates. And they were like, started ticking stuff off, and it was like a 9-month period. They're like, I got book 2, I have this novella, I have a short story in an anthology. We're setting up audio rights for books 1 and 2 in my main series, and like, I guess I got nothing else, I guess. And I was like, that's a lot of stuff, right? So
Yeah.
one book, one novella, one short story, in my opinion, is actually quite a bit. So yeah, I mean, it's always funny when I have people on, and particularly indie, right? Like, so I think sometimes we forget, how slow traditionally publishing, can be, or how long it can take. But yeah, one book a year is still, even if it is 70,000 or 40,000, still a triumph, I guess, is what I'm saying.
It's just I'm also in a weird situation where I'm working in DC, but my home and family are actually 250 miles away. So I go home on the weekends mostly, not this weekend, but um, yeah, there's a lot of other kind of I don't do as many shows as I used to do because of that, and et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I'm a IBOR judge this year, so I've got to
Mm.
read 3 books. I
Oh,
should
cool.
probably do that. And I do have in addition to book 4 of Ranger's Deck, which I've started, I want to get together with some people. I haven't actually made this known yet. I may as well say it here. So what I'm thinking about, you know how every year there are like advent calendars, right?
Yeah.
I would like to make an adventure calendar
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
basically get 24 people to write a novella around a holiday theme,
Mm.
right? And just so you'd have a pack of 24 books, one for each day of your advent calendar,
Oh,
but it would
that's
be your
cool.
adventure calendar.
Oh, that's
So,
awesome.
so yeah, if anyone is interested in doing that, hit me up on something
That's cool.
on X or Facebook or whatever. Um, what is it, Blue Sky? And I think if we started now, it gives us enough time where we could get it together and get it edited, and that would be kind of cool.
That's really cool. No, that sounds awesome. What genre would that be? Fantasy then?
Probably fantasy. I mean, I guess
Cool.
you could do it in any genre, and that actually might be more interesting if it wasn't all in one,
Oh, yeah,
because
that's a good
each
point.
day you don't know what you're getting, right? And,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
yeah, let's just say any genre.
Oh, that's cool. That's
That would,
awesome.
open it up to romance or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I have a secret project going on, so
A
we're
secret
about to
project.
send.
Ooh,
Yeah, yeah.
how exciting.
That's why I'm like really on a schedule. Nobody seems to like. I'm like I keep telling my wife I'm like, and she knows, but like she's like the only one besides 2 of my friends, and then the 3 people that we have on our main core team. But yeah, we're gonna do yeah a secret Kickstarter project
Nice.
this summer. We're hoping to be on like different shows and stuff like that. I'm actually sending out invites. It's urban fantasy, I'll say that. So we're sending out invites actually this week, probably tomorrow, if I can get the really cool invite I got planned to send to people, and then I'm sure it'll take a while to to get who we need and stuff like the numbers and stuff. But yeah, we're looking to get it out this fall and yeah, run it up until like Halloween. So yeah, hopefully we can get everything together the next couple of weeks. But yeah,
Very
I
cool.
definitely yeah. Otherwise, I'd be down, bro. Like I said, I got
No,
my
you're
production
probably
schedule's
busy. You-
wild.
you got-
Like right now, I told people like I got everything in until June, and then after that, like yeah, I'll be all over the place. But yeah, that sounds absolutely an adventure calendar. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna buy that though. That sounds really awesome.
Well,
24 of them sounds
we gotta
amazing.
get 24, 25 writers to jump
Yeah,
on
yeah.
board with that. And
Ah, man,
I don't think it'll be
that's really
too.
cool.
I think I'll be able to find that, but I got to start getting some emails out.
Yeah, yeah, I know that feeling. Oh, and that reminds me, once we get off, I'm gonna message you and Mike about something, a private group thing I'm doing.
Okay.
So thanks for reminding me. So that actually reminded me right then. So I'll send you guys that. Maybe you guys will be interested. We'll see. And then maybe we can help you guys with, or with you with finding some other authors and stuff. So Ro, do you have any other news updates, current projects, anything like that you can share with us before we head out for the day?
No, I mean right now
Sweet.
it's all it's Rangers Deck 4 and IBOR reading and um, you know just doing our thing on the show.
Yeah.
And the writing. Usually it's Wednesdays at 7. If you're interested in writing for 30 minutes on a random topic and genre, please join.
Cool. That's awesome. You guys have had absolutely amazing interviews, like a lot of them, but particularly in the last year. Like I just keep trying to go back. I'm like, you've had so many authors. I'm like, I don't know how you guys are finding them, and I'm not seeing them.
That
Maybe
is
I'm just busy,
all
but
Mike Moment right there.
oh man,
He
yeah,
is
you
our
guys are just like
scheduler, and
cranking them out.
he
It's
is
awesome.
bringing people in that I would never find. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's
It's been
all from
awesome.
him.
Yeah, it's awesome because then for me, I'm like, oh, like maybe I'll ask that person for a seat my my next season or for a live session this summer or something like that. It's been absolutely awesome, and that's why I like I said, like checking out other people's like podcasts, like Chris from Bearded Book Beast. He's got some of people. I'm like, oh man, these books sound like not only do I get to like maybe interview people or make a new friend, but I get new books out of it too. So it's always a really good time. I just want to thank people for joining the chat. I really appreciate that. But Ro, this has been really fun. fun. I
Yeah.
loved, being on your guys' podcast. So I'm so glad to have you on, and we'll definitely check out, try and get Mike on soon. Love to have you both on this summer once I'm, a little less busy. It'd be fun, do a little crossover. And then I'll ask you guys some D&D questions. Actually, my friend Don wants to know what's the writing for 30 minutes? Is that a private thing or is that on the show itself?
That's on the show. So yeah, you go to
Perfect.
our Bald and Balding channel and just join us in the chat, and we put up, we have a wheel that we spin for the genre, and then we put up the random prompt, and then it's pretty much quiet.
Cool. Cool.
I'll interact with people if they put something in the chat real quick, but other than that, it's because I'm writing too.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome. Cool. And Don, I have their the link and everything to their channel, so feel free, and I can send it to you as soon as we get done. That way I don't forget. Well, Ro, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us today. I really appreciate it. If there's anything else, that we can do or help you out with in the meantime, please let me know, and we'll be more than happy to help you with that.
all right, thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks everybody for showing up. See you guys.
Cheers.